Hello and welcome to Two Girls, One Pod. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Crystal.
And today we are here with Steve Callahan. Steve, how'd you like that little intro?
I was just about to get up, but if I got up, you wouldn't see what I got underneath. So I was ready to do walk
Get
like
up
an
and
Egyptian. I love that. That's awesome.
Listen,
nice
it'll be
little-
coming up for an outro too, so you can always think about your
Yeah.
dance moves.
you practice your dance moves. And I started like in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like 20 seconds long. And I'm like, 10 seconds is more than enough,
Absolutely.
So I put it on like in the middle, so because I like the way that it ends, but
Yeah.
I've been hitting the wrong, I guess, second lately. So it starts and I'm totally offbeat from the beginning. So it like throws me off. Anyway, it's fun to watch. Anybody who's not listening anybody who is listening and would like to look at this on YouTube. I'm a really good dancer. It's definitely worth looking at.
It's like super awkward chair dancing. So if that's your thing, definitely tune in.
It's mostly eyes and shoulders. It's just eyes and shoulders everywhere.
Chair dancing. I love that. Cool.
Yeah. Awkward chair dancing. So Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Very well.
So who are you? This is like, it's been the question we've been asking people. We're like, who is Steve? And it's such a loaded question because it's like, do you want me to start on my birth? Like it was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah, could have been.
Yeah. You're a realtor.
I am.
We work together. We don't work in the same brokerage, but I'll give a little background. I'll interrupt and throw a little background in. So I started real estate 6 or 7 years ago. And I went to work at the same brokerage that Steve was working at. He was actually my broker at the time. And that's how I know you. And since then, we've worked together on deals. We're both at different companies now, but we still talk fairly often about the market and getting into different listings and so on and so forth. So that's my background for you, and you can do the rest.
So I've been a realtor for 23 years. I started out when I was 7 years old.
That's young.
Been 23 years now as a realtor. Probably the greatest decision I ever made. I love it, obviously, and it's been different, but it's been the single best decision I ever made. Started off when I was 27, to be honest, 27 years old. And at that time, I was in an apartment on a borrowed car, and I had no idea about life. I will be truthful about that. At 27 years old,
who does?
not a clue. And for the first 5 years of my career, I had no clue. And really, until I bought a house, had a son, got married, then I could really start to relate to people. But 27 when I started, 23 years ago.
So I've
got
got
math on that now yet.
You're lucky I'm terrible at fast math.
Don't do that.
I still am trying to calculate that in my head, so I'll just put that to the side.
I won't say.
Yeah, Crystal knows. She's the math girl, right?
Yeah.
So I do have a question about that because when I first started, so I started about 6 or 7 years ago. I was 20, probably 27. I again not going to do the fucking math on it, but I was in my mid to late 20s. Yeah. And I had actually done the real estate exam many, many, many years before then in my early 20s, and had held off. And the reason that I held off is that a lot of people, I don't know if it's the reason that I held off, but I did hear a lot. So I did hear a lot when I first started off, when I had written the exam that and I was in an apartment, with my boyfriend. I'm married to him now, but it was, in an apartment with my boyfriend, very young, no life experience. And a couple of people had said to me like, oh, you're going to be a realtor, but you don't own a house. So did you find, and I mean, like in my head, I was like, I could do this. I'd be great at this. Like, I don't need to own a house to sell one, but at the same time, that was tugging. And I waited a few years before I even got started at, which I kind of regret because I should have just fucking got started because you learn as you go in this industry, whether you've got 10 houses. Because even when I did buy my house, I did everything the wrong way. So do you find that when you first started out and you didn't have a house, yourself or whatever, did you find that people were hesitant to work with you or did it matter?
Looking back, yeah, for sure. And I can't blame them. I really can't. I think right now, as much as I would encourage somebody to start as young as possible.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people start at a young age, and whenever that might be for somebody, wherever young, but start as young as possible and build your career. And it's absolutely amazing. There's so many opportunities now for someone young to grasp that career. But I can't blame them.
Mhm.
How could I relate to somebody? How could I relate to somebody who when I didn't own a house, owned a house? How could I relate to somebody who had children and kids when I didn't have a kid?
Mhm.
How could I relate to somebody? How could they relate to me, and vice versa? That was part of the decision I made to never, ever, ever. No, actually, I did the first time, looking back, but ever put my picture on my business card. I just,
Oh.
yeah, there is a couple of rare ones out there. I don't know if they're still there, but there's some classics. But I just decided at one point in time never put my picture on because I did not want anybody to make a decision based on my looks, whether it be too old or too
Hmm.
young or anything like that. And that was something that actually worked out down the road. But at 27, who could entrust me with thousands of dollars of a decision? I had to
Hundreds of
really
thousands
work
of dollars.
hundreds of thousands of dollars of decision, and I really had to work for that. What I call confidence.
Hmm.
You're looking for credibility, and you're looking for confidence from somebody, and that takes time. And sometimes it comes from somebody just giving you that little nudge, giving you that little push, giving you that first little opportunity. I remember my first listings. I remember my first sales. I remember my first listing was crazy. It was it was a listing on Blackler Avenue, number 63. And I had my first open house. And as you know, being in the business, you're excited about your first open house. You're excited about
I
your first listing.
loved my first open house.
Oh,
Hate
yeah.
them now.
Hang on. I was jacked up for my first open house. Mundy Pond.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everything in Mundy Pond. And back then in 98, everybody was still kind of gossipy about Monday Pond, everything. So I opened the doors at 2 o'clock and the place is flooded. They're lined up to come in. And every person that walks in said, is this the guy's house who hung himself 12 years ago? Is this the guy's house who hung himself 12 years ago? Is
Oh
this
my
the guy?
God.
I'm floored. I am 27, don't know what to do, don't know what to say. And that was my first lesson in disclosure, and had to call the vendors back and say,
By the
Did this
I
way,
actually
happen?
lived there for 10 years, and 2 years prior to them moving in, somebody had hung themselves. Now, I don't know where they hung
wow.
themselves because the
Yeah.
basement was this big, but anyway, somebody went for a
Wow.
swing. That was my first listing. 27.
Crazy.
It took a long time. It took a long time to be able to relate to people. And I think we need some life experience to really go to another level. As much as we want to understand things, when you sit across from two people that are getting a divorce in
Hmm.
real estate, and you may have been through something like that, then really things really change. It doesn't become about price or service fees or anything like that. It
Yeah.
becomes about understanding what's truly going on. So it took a little while, took a little bit of life experience, and to really start to understand what this really meant for people. So.
Well, because I think, in your industry, yes, I understand that it's sales, but it's also very much a relationship industry. You're building
100%.
relationship with your clients. You're trying to understand them. And it's hard to build a relationship when you don't have some common ground.
Yeah.
So, trying to having a little bit of life experience behind you definitely helps when you're trying to relate to people, for sure. It's like, how do you relate to somebody who's worried about the schooling area for their children in a couple of years' time when you don't have children, so you haven't even thought about that, and you wouldn't think about it under normal
And
circumstances because you haven't experienced it.
it's something that you think. So I always say with the real estate, everybody says, I want to be a realtor. How do I do it? What do I do? What do I study for? And I'm like, just go memorize the books that they give you, take the test, and then throw everything you learned. Don't throw it all in the garbage, because basically what the test teaches you is how to stay out of jail. It tells you
Yeah.
the legal stuff,
The legal
how to
side.
properly fill out a contract and that sort of stuff. And then it has zero to do with the business. It took me probably 4 years for one before I even thought about school zones, because again, I didn't have kids at the time. And it wasn't until I had a client who had somebody, that needed to be in a specific school zone. And I went, how do I figure that out?
Right.
No idea, because nobody teaches you.
No.
Nobody comes up and says, and I don't think it's the fact that nobody teaches you. I think that real estate is so broad in what you need to know, and there is no ending to it. I'm learning things every day. Steve, 23 years in, I'm sure you're still learning things every day. So Steve is back. He froze up for a minute, but Steve, basically, I just said, I'm still learning things every day. I'm sure 23 years in the business, you're still learning things every day. Like it's just too broad to teach it all.
There's no common transaction. There's no client that is exactly the same. There's no situation that is exactly the same. And, as Crystal mentioned about relationships, and this one's not going to go very popular in my industry, but it's a transactional industry. And most people, and I'm not afraid to say it, are very transactional. They're looking for that deal. They're looking for that listing, looking for that. So
What's your
relationships
price?
are
What's your
not very
price?
popular. Yeah. Oh yeah. And relationships are not popular. We speak it, we feel it, we'll market it, but truthfully at the end of the day, really staying in touch with somebody becomes difficult. Life goes on. But it is truly that relational business. And when that transaction goes so smooth, or that process goes so smooth, because the relationship is really, really nice. And if not, the deal may get struck, but the relationship will never be there at the end. And that's tough to hear, because this industry it preaches relationships, but it really doesn't build on them, and it's lacking. And I wish there was more.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that for sure. I feel like I'm a lot like you. I don't know if that was from us working together when I first got started, or just our personality types, really. But I do the same thing. Like with my clients, they're not clients. Like
No,
they're friends,
hate
like they're like, I always say, oh, it's a client, or I'm helping this person find their house. And like there is the odd client who comes along and is like, I want to buy this house. Can you show it to me and write up the offer? And it's a quick transaction. But even those clients, you're still dealing with such a huge part of their life. You do stay in touch, even if it's just a quick text on Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day, how you doing,
Absolutely.
or whatever,
Yeah.
And I do, I agree. Like there is a lot of the industry that probably doesn't do that, but where we do it, I don't, you know what I mean? Like I see it the way you see it. I see it like, yeah, well, I'm going to stay in touch with this person. The only time I'm not going to stay in touch with someone is if you were a complete ass. And if that's the
That's
case, we
shitty.
probably didn't work together anyway.
And that's become more recent for me. I mean, I could do 99 good things, and if we had one that was a struggle, I would let that wear down on me like before. Now, and that's probably because I'm in a different season in my life right now. And I just see so many other beautiful relationships that are out there right now that I didn't see 3 years ago. I didn't see because of the blinders that I had on when I was operating in a place in my career that I'm not proud of anymore. But I look at where things are to in my life right now, and where I'm placed things, and where things are to in my life bookshelf. And if somebody, we're just not clicking, then it's just let them go, and let them find somebody that is going to help them, and they're going to click with, and hopefully they're going to move on with. I'm so at peace with those kind of situations than what I used to be before. I wanted to fix everything at once, and
oh no,
I can't do that anymore.
You're not everyone's cup of tea. You're not always going to be, everyone, and that's okay, because that's why, like, we're all different personalities, right? Touching on that a little bit. This is, we'll call this, you say, like a different season. So this is kind of like Steve's life part 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to explain what that means?
I always call it my second life, because I feel like I died. And
well, you almost did. Am
I
correct
was
in saying
what
that?
I call it a couple of platelets away from turning to the point where I would have dropped dead, and nobody would have been able to do anything for me. So I refer to it on other avenues and other venues as I'm on my second life. This is my second life, because I was this close to death.
So what happened?
And that was only a couple of years ago.
You had a heart attack. I cut you off. Sorry.
I had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I was 47 years old.
That's crazy.
So like that is crazy, because like, realistically, that's still a young man.
It's a very young man.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's not the norm. So
and I mean, sorry, I don't mean I'm jumping in. I was just gonna say,
jump in, please. Yeah.
The other side of it is it's you're a young man, but you're also like anybody who's not listening to this and who's watching it on YouTube or who knows Steve personally, you're not a big fat guy. you know,
exactly.
like you're not a
You're not the
large,
picture
you don't
of
look
like unhealthy. Right.
Yeah.
right? But that's where it goes back to, of course, like health is not a size, but
No.
you know, realistically, like you're not an overweight man. You were, I mean, before the heart attack, me and you were doing like these boxing workout classes
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So I would have considered you like extremely healthy, like good cardio. Like you were doing, I think last time we worked out together, you were doing push-ups,
Yeah.
elevated push-ups on fucking medicine balls. So one
Like
hand
Jesus.
medicine ball under each hand, and then two of your feet on a medicine ball, and you were doing push-ups on those. And I was like, this fucking guy. Like, and
What a
then
show off.
yeah, but then I think it was around that year or
It was.
right after, wasn't it? Oh, we've lost him. Hold on, he's froze
Roasted it.
to it. So I'll cut this part out of the recording for the Podbean people. But YouTubers, you're gonna just
You get it
all. Fast forward if you don't.
We'll start that again.
All right, there he is.
So it was around November. It was around 2018. And actually we got some anniversaries coming up. It was kind of what was interesting was the process, because a lot of guys now and gals, but I try to talk to the guys. They just don't understand what's happening in their life. But I had thought that I was doing everything right. And I don't mean the 4 balls and the push-ups and all that kind of stuff. And I don't mean I meant like I've never had a cigarette in my life.
Right.
Never had.
Really?
I've never had one up to my lips. Doesn't matter. I don't care what anybody does. It doesn't I'm not saying that to be judgmental. I just thought I was doing everything right.
You weren't really a big drinker either, were you?
No, in my 20s, I drank enough to kill a small horse, but that was different. But I sort of started, like, I was phasing away from those kind of things. I just started to lose the luster of it all at that age. So I wasn't drinking. I never smoked. I was incredibly active at the time. I was box fit 3 or 4 times a week. I was playing hockey 3 times a week, so I was extremely active. It was actually that morning that I had actually played hockey that Friday morning. I was coaching. I do know now, looking back at some of the things that led to that point in time in my life. I do now look back and realize, but it was in November, it was November 4th, 2nd, I think it was 2nd. It was a Friday. I had just finished, I played hockey earlier that morning, and it was cold and it was damp, and I had trouble breathing. And I found my chest to be cold, and I had trouble breathing. And I was sitting on the bench playing with other guys, and I was like, guys, is your chest cold? Are you guys cold? And I think I had them all psyched out because they were like, geez, I don't know, but now I feel cold and all this. And it was just funny. Everybody was kind of scared shitless that day. But I left the ice about 5 minutes early, and I went in, and actually in our dress room, we have a private dress room, and I actually chewed 2 aspirin. And I'm not saying that did anything, but I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I did it, because I was not thinking it. But I was winded. And so here's my thing. And as you know, in exercising, when you're winded or you don't feel like you're in good enough shape, your next reaction is to, well, I should push harder, or I should get on that treadmill and I should push more. And obviously if I had did that, I wouldn't have made it through Friday night. So I coached the hockey game. I lost. I was upset. It was rainy, drizzly. It was about 9:30. And I said, okay, I've got nothing to do tonight. I think I'm just going to drive myself to the hospital and go get checked out. So I drove.
Because your schedule was free.
She said that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Spoken like a realtor if I've ever heard it.
I've got a free half an hour. So
yeah, that was it. I might as well go run in now. I got nothing to do.
So that had been happening all day. Like this started at the hockey game. You went on with your day.
I think it was happening for 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
I think it was happening.
Yeah.
I think it was blocking up. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you recall any like specific things now looking back that in hindsight you're kind of like, I probably should have paid a little more attention to that particular thing?
I was winded
all the time.
My
dad said the same thing.
So I was playing ball hockey in the summertime. So this happened in November. Mm-hmm. So looking back to July, August, I was winded, and I just thought it was just muggy weather. Just, it was that summer weather, and it was too warm. But looking back, I was winded all the time and short-winded. And of course I would just say, again, oh, I need to push harder. I need to push harder. so I think it was happening for 3 or 4 months. I think the clogging and the blocking was happening for 3 or 4 months. I will say it was probably happening for years. And that might be something to do back to my lifestyle of that I now look at how I was operating as a business person, as a husband, as a father, the way I look at life back then compared to where I was I could see how my body was constricting, how my veins were constricting and everything. But that Friday I walked in and by the way, if you ever want to skip the lines in a hospital, just go like this.
Oh yeah.
Just grab the heart, just
Yeah.
grab the chest. I don't have to stand any more lineups anymore now. So just
Yeah.
go in and go, I got a little chest pain. You're in right away. So I went in and I did 5 tests. 4 I passed. So I did an EKG, blood pressure, chest x-ray, and ultrasound and passed all 4. And I was sitting there for about an hour and a half, just kind of like that. I said, I'm okay, I'm fine. They did everything. Blood work. And
same happened to my dad.
He walked in with a chart and he looked up, and I'm 47 at the time. And he looked at me and he said, you're having a heart attack. And I just, wow. What? And he said, we got to bring you up now, and brought me into ICU or CCU. I don't know what they actually call it. And the funny thing is, like, I know a lot of people, as you know. When they wheeled me through the doors and I was in that bed, the nurses were kind of had their head down. It was late at night. It was like, 10:30, 11 o'clock. And they look up and they say, what the fuck are you doing here? That was their exact word, because they had known the same things. Here was the stupid guy on the ball.
Yeah. Oh, we lost him. Come on in, Steve. Bloop, bloop. That's fast forward. Bloop, bloop.
That's your sound effect for fast forward.
I saw it on Modern Family the other day. I was like, I'm gonna start doing that.
Got you.
Where's my sound
There he is.
Oh, there he is.
It was I was fast forwarding you, and I got you.
They looked up and they said, what are you doing? They actually came over and took selfies. I was lying in bed and they were like taking selfies and everything, saying like, this guy's here. And not that I was popular, it was just they couldn't believe it. And they someone posted them and everything. I don't know if they're allowed to do that stuff, but
Probably not.
Fired.
They
don't work at the hospital anymore.
I went in
real estate now.
And I didn't know what to think Friday night. Of course, mom comes by and, I'm in the hospital. And so they said, you have a blockage. We don't know quite exactly. We got to do a dye test, and we'll do that on Monday when the doctors come in. You're going to be here for the weekend. Okay, great. They Saturday goes by, nothing happens. I get a call that Dr. Parfrey, Brendan Parfrey, is coming in on Sunday morning. And he said, so he comes in, he says, I'm going to do you now. So I don't know what that means, but I'm going to do you now. So he says, so obviously we're going to run the dye test. And I start thinking, so are they going to cut me? Are they going to rip open my chest? Like, am I ever going to be able to do certain things again? I didn't start to really worry about it. I think I thought, and I'm being honest, I thought, am I going to have the zipper?
Yeah. Right.
How am I going to be able to take my shirt off again? They're going to crush my chest or whatever. I don't know. And I got a little mad because hey, I was doing all the right things, right? What about the people that, are not doing all the cigarettes a day? I was doing all the right stuff. And Sunday he came in, and I think, full disclosure here, this was probably the scariest part. But so they said, it's going to be a quick process. We won't know till we get in there. We won't know till we, get in and see what's going on and what kind of blockage was there. And and so they didn't really know. And was there any damage to the heart? And I just kind of didn't know. And I said, okay, well, at 12:30 p.m. I looked up at the clock in the hospital room. They wheeled me out, and I went in. And when you get naked and you put that robe on, and you go from the bed, but then you go onto this like cold steel table on the operating room, because everything has to be steel. That's kind of scary. And that, that last little mom wave of, okay, I'll see you in a little bit, but then you're just going down. And
you're by yourself.
That was kind of scary. That was the scariest part.
Yeah.
I was back in my room in 35 minutes. My surgery took 6.8 minutes.
How's that even possible?
That's
What happened?
crazy. Just like really good doctors or
6.8 minutes. When they figured out that the blockage was in the widowmaker,
Yeah.
and they
my
have
word.
got to come up with a better name than that. But
Yeah.
I was at an above 90% blockage. So one platelet turns, another one turns, and I'm done. I could be in the middle of 5 surgeons. I'm out of here. They put a stent in my little wrist here. I don't even have a scar anymore. They blew it out, put a stent right here, sent me back. And 35 minutes later, I was back in my room. And less than 24 hours later, I left the hospital at 12 o'clock on Monday.
Whoa.
You're very fortunate though. Like,
I'm extremely fortunate. I'm extremely fortunate. I'm very,
and
very fortunate.
not only are you fortunate that they were able to like get in there and get out like so quickly, but also that it was a situation where they could actually put the stent in and you didn't have to open you up, because that is a whole other set of like recovery is brutal for that. Yeah. Right.
Extremely brutal. 6 weeks later, I was back playing hockey.
Wow. Right.
6 weeks later, I started back kickboxing. I never stopped since then.
So like, sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No,
so like looking back, I mean, like you said, it was probably forming for years and years and whatever, but like what do you now attribute to the overall cause of that? Like the years and years of buildup, like what caused it? Like, was it shit eating? Was it stress? Was it like drugs? Like, open up here, open it all up.
So the number one thing is genetics.
Right.
Yeah, there is a blueprint that does lead to it. It does line you up that way. My dad did have open heart surgery, but most of his was attributed to lifestyle. However, I did find out a couple of grandparents died a little young through some heart conditions. So it would have been nice to know that, Mom, by the way. Yeah. Genetics is number one. Number two, for me, my diet has always been shit. And sugar was my best friend. I mean, you know, a tin of Pineapple Crush, a Mars bar would find its way on my night table just about every night. A Mae West, whatever that might be, my diet was crap. It has become part of my life now, but it was getting actually better leading up. Like, here's the thing about the heart attack. I was actually doing a lot of good stuff leading up to that. And that's what kind of got me back, because I was doing so many good things. I had made so many life changes, some by choice and some by other people's choices, whether it was a dissolvement of a marriage or a dissolvement of a family, a change of a company. I was doing so many things that were leading up to good. And then when the heart attack came, I was like, oh, come on, I've got stuff to do here. I've got things to do. And I was kind of held back that way. But one was genetics. Two was diet. But I will say the third one, and probably most overwhelming one, was what I thought was important in life was absolute bullshit.
Yeah. So stress, really.
It was that tremendously, because I felt I had to be the 8-to-8 guy. I was striving for a title for 20 years. I wanted to be the broker. I wanted to be the manager. I wanted to be the suit and tie guy. Corner window office. I wanted to be all those things. I was up and punching in at 8. I was going home at 8. I thought all that shit was important. I would get upset at traffic. I would get upset at referees' calls in sports. I would get upset at the littlest things, which mean absolutely nothing. And I am so glad, because the world changed back in March of last year, and we had a little thing called COVID come in, and it really just flattened the world, and it just cleared everything up to the point where it really started to show what was important. And I had been figuring those things out. That's why I welcome COVID. I welcome, not the actual disease, not those kind of things, not the struggles, but the change in the world. I was there. I was already there, and I was enjoying it. I was seeing what was important. The commutes are not important anymore. The titles are not important. None of those things mattered anymore. And that's what I kind of saw with that, because I was living somebody else's dream, as opposed to my own.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was tightening up. Everything was constricting up. And when you tighten up and constrict up, eventually blood's not going to flow. And eventually your heart's going to just say, I'm tired. And eventually your lungs are going to say, I'm tired. And eventually your kidneys are going to say, you're tired, because you're just pushing and pushing in the wrong direction. And things just tightened and tightened and tightened. And it was truly just a lifestyle thing. It really was. And when I see things today, and I have some things that kind of come to my mind that are, that become important, and I'm trying to nudge people and nudge people and nudge people. I got so excited when I saw you guys start what you're starting.
You called me. It was like
was
9 o'clock at night. He's like, this is so fucking cool.
I was your number one fan before you guys had fans.
I
And
appreciate that.
because I think life's all about nudges.
Yeah.
I don't know what nudged me that night to go. If I let my mind wander, then it'll go to a scary place, because I would not have been alive on Sunday. There's no doubt about it. I was gone. And I can legitimately say that I am on my second life. It was just mathematics. That's all it was. But now that I'm there, it's okay. Like I always say, we have two birthdays, one when we're born and one when we figure out why we were born.
Yeah.
And that's one of those most powerful quotes I live by. So it's that why. And I just don't have zero time for bullshit anymore. None. I have no time for excuses. There's nothing that we don't do that we don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
No situation that we're not in that we don't want to be in. And I think the antennas went up, and I just think that it's time to start get some meaning as to why I'm still around. So.
That is fucking awesome. So I have a couple of things I took from that. For one, I feel like Crystal and I are looking into our future if we don't lay off the junk food, because we're both the same thing. And she's rolling her eyes because she's like, fuck you, Melissa. And she knows exactly what I'm talking about.
It's true.
But yeah, so basically, like, sugar is our weakness. We talk about it all the time. We bonded over it for years, and we both love to work out, but we love chocolate more. And we do
like maybe I just ate 2 cupcakes.
Yeah.
Right. Like I had those. Okay. So I got to do a quick shout out, because I had, we're talking about like health and wealth and whatever. And I'm like, so these chocolates, but I have to do a fucking shout out, because there is a local company here. It's called Chocolate Expressions YYT. And my husband ordered me this Mother's Day box. Cause listen, all this stuff, like, would you agree, Steve? It's fine in moderation, right?
It is. No, it is. Absolutely.
So he ordered me this Mother's Day box, and it comes with all these goodies, and they're like fucking, some of them are the size of your hand. But this big thing was it was a slab. It's Belgian milk chocolate in the shape of a heart. It was the size of my face.
Size of her face.
Literally the size of my face. And it had all these brand name candy bars in it. So like one bite was like a fucking caramel bar, another bite was a Bounty, another bite was a Twix, then there was like a Kit Kat, like, and every bite was just a different ride. It was, so I ate that entire box between Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon, like not even Sunday night, like it was gone. And I shared like this much, like I hardly shared at all. So, I mean, yes, it's good in moderation, but my problem is the binge. Like once I get it, I just got to keep on going. And you're here telling us about your heart attack, and that a lot of it was, it was lifestyle, and it was this food, and it was years and years of it. And I'm like, the only thing that's different is that I'm not really tightly wound.
But I am.
You are though. Yeah.
So, and again, like you said, between all of that and like genetics, like full disclosure,
and two of us have heart problems in our family.
Yeah, right. So, and me on both sides. I think you on both sides too, Melissa.
No, just dad's side. Dad's side, but like 97% of dad's side. So
yeah, like, well, my dad just recently, well, when was it? Like last November, I think he had the triple bypass, so he had the whole thing, right? Yeah. And so that was something. And then my uncle actually just recently had 5 stents put in. So because they were like, well, if we don't get these in, it'll be 3 months until we can do open heart surgery. So we need to get these blockages cleared, more or less. Right. So it's, and those were both 2 different sides of the family. So it's something to definitely watch for. But like you said, I mean, you were 47, and I sit down and I say, okay, well, that's young. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what you hear about. Right.
I
But
I didn't, I never thought when I sat there, and there was a couple things that stick in my head. Um, the guy coming around the corner with the clipboard,
mhm,
that vision of that sticks to my head. And he looks up and he says, "You're having a heart attack." And I'm 47. Uh, my bare ass on a coal slab, that's scary. That
yeah.
shit's scary. And there's nobody else behind you. Those are things that I haven't shared. And those are the things that are really eye-opening, because you don't get to see inside. You don't get to see anything. Like, I had no symptoms. To this day, I still have no symptoms.
Crazy.
Crazy.
I've been in dental chairs longer than was in the hospital.
Mhm.
I mean, I had no symptoms. I almost wish I had more symptoms,
Mhm.
because then I could, like if you break your arm, you have a cast for so many months and you can't do anything. So you say, okay, I better not do that again. I had a big chocolate bar the other day, a big
Mhm.
hero bar, because I really haven't had anything that really hammered me down as far as being, I was back playing hockey 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
I will say, of the five guys that I'll spend time around, two are this close to having heart trouble and they don't know it.
Yeah.
Unless you get your blood checked, there's no way. I passed 4 tests.
Mhm.
I was given a slip by my doctor for an EKG. He said, "You're a bit winded. Maybe we should get you an EKG. Have you ever had one done?" It wouldn't have mattered. I
No.
passed an EKG.
Yeah.
I
While
passed
having a heart
the
attack.
chest X-ray while I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
At the
Like,
exact time I was having a heart attack.
Which then really just makes me question the whole validity of any of these tests, because in all honesty, like after my dad had his heart attack, well, he didn't even have a heart attack. He was just waiting for it basically at this point.
Mhm.
But he had 10 blockages. Most of them were 90% or more. And like, I went to the doctor and I was just like, listen, there's so much family history. Like, I need to get checked out. I've had an EKG done, nothing showed up. I had a stress test done. I'm like, that's the same as me just going to the gym.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? And otherwise, like, my cholesterol is good. Everything else looks fine. Everything else looks completely copacetic.
Mhm.
But that's not to say that it can't happen, because I know for sure that the man that was in there while I was doing the stress test looked at me. He goes, "You're 37." He was like, "You're
Always.
not." Yeah, you're
Mm.
37. There's nothing wrong with you. There's
Yeah.
no way you're too young.
Yeah.
Well, my aunt had a heart attack at 41. So
Yeah.
that wasn't that
Mhm.
far from me.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it could be anything. Like right now, the topic is a heart attack. It could be anything. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's now, again, what are we doing with the time now? And unless something happens, somebody's really just not going to wake up tomorrow and say, okay, I'm going to make the best of my life today. It really is just not going to happen. That why has got to be so strong to
Yeah.
really make a change. And sometimes it's not. Would I have changed anything if somebody, see, like, if you go out, if I say to you, you eat that hamburger, and in an instant you eat that hamburger, you're going to have a heart attack. You wouldn't eat the hamburger.
That's
Mhm.
true.
Like the
Yep.
instant you're finished eating it, you wouldn't. It's the compound effect over and over and over and over and over again. If I say, hey, one cigarette and you're going to die of a heart attack, you would never put it up to your lips. But it's the one and the compound effect. And if I think now, looking back, as much as I might want to attest to it being a diet, and as much as it is genetics, I think it's lifestyle. I really
Yeah.
do. I think
Yeah.
it's the stress that we take on in our lives. And I think it's
100%.
the constrictions that we put on. I think it's the people we are around. I think that's so much now. And I've talked so much about that in other venues now. I think it's either you're around a positive circle, you're around a cage. And if we don't eliminate that negativity in our life and open up to so many new possibilities, then it's just as well you had a heart attack. It's
Yep.
just as well that you did end up on a slab. It really truly is. And that's more of the life I'm looking at now. And
Yeah.
if you really break down time, I think it becomes a bit more manageable. We all think we're going to live forever, and we're not.
Yeah.
I feel like now I have 3 good decades. And I
Yeah.
don't like, I'm hoping I'm getting to 80, but I feel like I've got 3 decades. So what am I going to do in the first one? What am I going to do in the second? What am I going to do in the third? Like I'm hoping to be able to bounce around and show homes,
Yeah.
but I don't know where I'm going to be able to do that in the next 10 years and be hopping and soul stickering and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'm going to be there. I probably won't be able to do push-ups on balls. So I'm just making a little bit more time. Although I don't know, maybe I will.
You will. You
Yeah.
will. Make it a goal. It'll happen.
Right?
Oh, we've lost Steve again. Steve. Who is his internet provider? We've got to ask this question.
Who's yours?
Who's mine? I'm with Bell
Me too.
right now. I'm with Bell. Come back to us, Steven.
Yeah. You got
There
me.
he is.
Yeah.
There he is. So, oh, what was I going to say? Yeah. Okay. So, Steve, full disclosure, because I
Yeah.
noticed such a crazy difference in you. Like it honestly is like night and day. And I mean personality wise. Now, I'm not saying you had a shit personality or anything like that, but
No.
like I can remember like having you on Facebook for instance.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a while, not just Big Brother, there was another time where I had you unfollowed.
Yeah.
And it was because I had found that like the status updates that you would do were either negative or they were like some kind of a complaint. Now, it wasn't every status, but it got repetitive. And
Yeah.
I find that like in my newsfeed, when I see that repeating, I'll unfollow for a bit because for me, I
That's
try
what you
I try to unfollow.
You
Like,
Filter it out. You have the
even
control.
news. I don't even
Yeah.
like I jump in to see what happened as an update and like I just don't want to be pounded with negative shit, right?
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I've noticed that like back in the day, I could have easily been like, oh, Steve, he's so negative on Facebook and just like ignore it. Now, at the same time, we were probably working out together and having a laugh and there was no negativity in person, but it was just, I guess, like a vent.
It was.
And
It wasn't the right place, and it was. And I don't think it was a time where I was invested properly in what was triggering things.
but you probably didn't realize.
I think we do. I think we do. I think we know what we're doing. I think we know that we're throwing that out there to get a reaction. Looking back now,
Yeah.
I think we're responsible for everything that happens in our lives.
100%.
Yes.
And actually that's probably the best position to ever be in, is to be responsible and know that, because if not, then we got to wait for somebody else to fix it. So I think, I knew what I was doing. I don't think I knew at the time, but I think I was hoping for a reaction. I think I was hoping to be paid attention to. I think I was hoping to be acknowledged. I struggled with that. I struggled that when in my past business relationship that I had for 20 years. It was a father-son relationship, and in doing so, it was a time when I was looking to be acknowledged. I was going through some struggles. I was going through a dissolvement of a family, and Facebook was not the best place for me to be. That was a tool. It was a telephone. It was a billboard. It was a diary. It was whatever it was. That's what it was for me at that time. And it was a venue that I chose not to be the right place for, which has now become a better place. And now an incredible community, and has now become, a doorway to so many beautiful relationships. And I still have to monitor it. I don't have great days sometimes, or at least I don't have great moments compared to what you may see now today. But this isn't an act now.
Yeah.
But it's okay to have your moments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, life still happens.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, you can't have wonderful days every single day. But I feel like I've never seen what you put out there before, because you and I weren't friends at the time. Yeah. But what I see coming like through now is just nothing but positivity all of the time. Like, it's always very positive. And I actually look forward to seeing your status updates.
Yes. Well, because it's gone from that to this uplifting, like what's your motto, Steve? One life, live it.
One life, live it. Yeah.
And I fucking love that, because that's what I feel like. And I'm so happy that we're talking about this today, because that is something that I feel like is so hard for people to grasp. Because here's the thing: if you're constantly focused on negativity, you're just going to get more negativity, regardless of if whatever way your life is set up. Bad things will happen to you if you're constantly seeing the bad. Like, you have to focus on gratitude and seeing the good in things, and then like your vision will change your reality.
I take ribbings for how positive I can be now. I do. I mean, I could walk into a hockey dress room and, have the odd jokes made, and, and that's okay. I'm okay with that now. The fact that they may see it means, hey, they might be listening.
Yeah.
When I
They're
say,
probably going through their own struggle, and your
yeah,
positivity is making them have to look inside, and
yeah,
they're going to roll their eyes at you because
that's
that's
okay.
easier than changing their own lives.
I'm good with that now, and I actually welcome it. I think it's great, and but to see, it's the incredible stories. It was this morning at 8:30 that I took a suicide call today.
Oh, wow.
A suicide call today, and I may take one every 2 weeks
Really?
by opening myself up over the last couple of years and coming out and speaking on social media and giving people the opportunity to connect with me. I may take one every 2 weeks or something that's very close to that. So now to understand that and to not get wrapped up in whatever might come back the other way. Uh, at one point, I felt like, you know, that I'm a vehicle to be able to just deliver a message, whether
Mhm.
that's being able to speak, whether that's
Oh,
Awesome.
it's going to be a bit of cuts in this episode.
Yeah.
Not on YouTube.
No.
No editing on YouTube. We leave in all the funny pauses
Right?
in mid-serious
you were.
conversation. There he is. So you
There he
froze
is.
up a little bit.
Oh, you lost me for a bit. Sorry.
Yeah.
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 Not sure what the last part was because I think I
Um,
went a bit deep.
we had finished, you had mentioned about the couple of suicide calls. And then
Yes.
you said that, at one point you thought that you were like a vehicle for a
Yeah.
message.
And I believe that wholeheartedly, and I think that's what makes things a little bit more, visionary when it comes to the positivity. It's not fake. It really, it's not fake. And the first person I'm talking to is me.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking to me. I'm talking, hey, let's keep up here. Let's keep going. We think it's positive talk and positive mindset that leads to positive actions, and that's all bullshit. It's actions first. It's get up. It's make the bed. It's get moving.
Yes.
Then the positivity will flow. It's
Mhm.
not thoughts first. It's actions. Actions lead to thoughts, and then thoughts will lead to more actions.
Yeah.
So it's truthfully that, but having that vision of and being aware that you're a vehicle. The three most motivating words in the English dictionary are you are going to die. That's it. Like you have one life. You're going to die. And it's either we grasp that or we don't. And like, what is that reason? Whatever that may be, it's either going to come for you at the end, it's going to come for you in a different place in your life, or it's going to come a little earlier and you're going to be able to make something good of that. I'm thankful of that fact. I have, it becomes such a passion for me. Like when you ask a question, I can go on a rant because I truly believe we got one life.
Mhm.
That I know that for me, I have no question about. And I was given a second chance. I was given a second chance for him. Listen, you knew me when I walked the hallways. I was an asshole. I was crooked. I was like
Crooked, I would say. You were never an ass to me, but it was more so, and I wouldn't even say you were crooked. It was more so, I just found, for me personally, knowing you, I found you were always nice to me. You're always helpful.
Yeah.
At the offices in the hallways, there was usually music coming from your room, like from
Yeah.
your office. So like for me, I never looked at you like that. But the Facebook statuses, I was like, Jesus, stop complaining. And I'd just scroll on, right? That was all for me. That was the only time I ever saw you in a negative light.
I was it was in a place of transition. It really was. And sometimes it takes a little longer, but I was in a place of transition, and I welcome that now. Now, I guess going through that transition, I'm able to see other people that are going through those transitions and going through difficult times. And I might reach out to them and say, hey, are you okay? Did you want to go for a coffee? Did you want to talk? Because I've seen people go through them, and I know that you can get through them. I know that you can push through. I know that what we think is bad is actually just crap, and it really is. And that life is just a little simple. And I think that, again, if we threw everybody's shit in a pile, we'd be happy if we pulled our own out.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can become overwhelming. Sometimes we want crap in our life just to give us something to talk about. You know, somebody calls and said, "Hey, how's your day?" And you go, blah, and you vomit all over them because you just want something to relate to. And really, it's not all that bad. That's the good part. Knowing that it's not, knowing that there is a little bit of a better light, knowing that, hey, that was a chapter in my life, that was a transition. Social media was a way for me to cry out, but knowing that I don't need that now, and knowing that I can recognize that in others, was a period to go through. And I think I was living somebody else's dream, and until I figured out what mine was,
Mhm.
then I really wasn't wearing that smile that I'd like to think I'm wearing now. So
That's beautiful, man.
It is.
Would you call, so I would call your heart attack your arrow.
Yeah, it's like a
So
yeah,
catalyst.
yeah, like your they always compare the arrow to like when life is, pulling you back, it's
mm,
actually getting ready to propel you into something better. Like in order for an arrow to move forward, it first has to be dragged back. So like would you consider that to be that point in your life? Or do you think that happened maybe years before or
no, definitely years before. I think I was going through a period of change leading up to the heart attack,
Mhm.
and that's what I mean when the heart attack happened. It was kind of, oh, come on,
I already made these changes.
I got stuff to do. Like, it was like actually like number 8 or 9 on the list, and I referred to it because I referred to, I'm living life number 2, and I really truly believe that. I mean, like right now, I'm Muay Thai 3 times a week, 4 times a week. I'm playing hockey 3 times a week. I'm now a personal trainer at my age, and I have my own personal fitness business. So like, I really do believe I'm maximizing the most I can out of my days. I love that. I think things were changing for a long time.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest change in my life came with the dissolvement of my marriage at one point in time. And having a son who was 3 years old and 4 years old at the time, and going through that change. And I said, was if I failed as a husband, I'm going to make sure I don't fail as a father. And I invested a lot of time over that period to become a really, what I believe, really good dad and a really good father. But I really invested a lot of time leading up. So I was going through this change in that period of time as well. And that was, I remember picking out another home with me and my son and going there as a father and that kind of stuff. So there were some changes that I was going through at that time. And
Oh, I lost him again.
You did.
Does he freeze up when like on his end, I wonder?
I don't know.
Come
when
back
I
to the
was
light. There you are, Steve. You were gone again.
I was gone, sorry.
You're still kind of frozen. I can hear you. There you go.
There
Okay.
he is.
So you had said when you had picked out your house,
Yeah.
as like a
That's
single father,
that
essentially.
was an incredible time because those were things that really stuck with me. At that time, I knew that if I was gonna, if the marriage had failed, which was at that time, it was a failure. Like that's, those were things that you failed at. You didn't do what you had set out to do. So I said, well, if that's going to happen, then I'm going to make the best of it. We have a great relationship today, fantastic to this day. We would share Christmas dinner together as families.
Nice.
We worked so hard for those kind of avenues, which have made for better parent and son relationships and that kind of stuff. But that was a change that started the change. And I said, okay, well, if this didn't work, I'm going to make sure that this works. Then as things progressed, and I figured out that where the direction my career was going in wasn't what I wanted, and I wanted that to change. That was a tremendous change for me. To this day, I still work on that. To this day, I still work on that one, and how that affects me. The relationships I had there, I'm so blessed to still have a relationship with you, and now
Hmm.
Crystal. And I
Yeah.
embraced the new relationships. But those that I had to leave behind were so difficult. It was such a difficult time. So when people say they can't move on, I say you can. When people say I can't move to a better place, I say you can. There are so many beautiful relationships that are out there, and we don't get the opportunity to see them because we're just so focused on the small ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So talk about your like how you moved on. Like what are you doing now? So you've got fitness
Yeah.
business,
Yes.
you've got your real estate business. Oh, Crystal's gone. My God, I'm losing everybody tonight. So you've got your fitness business, you've got your real estate business.
Yep.
you are going to have an up and coming, am I allowed to announce this?
Yes, you are.
Up and
Absolutely.
coming podcast.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. We've been discussing a little bit about how you're going to get started on that. And what else you got going on? Is that
I'm
all?
excited about the podcast. I really am. I'm envious, but I'm such a fan of you guys for starting things. I'm just way too analytical. But we have a podcast. We have graphic art. We have.
Oh, nice. I'm
Yeah.
using mine for the first time tonight.
I
If
know.
you're
Love
wondering
it.
if it has to be perfect before you start, the answer is fuck no.
No. We got all kinds of equipment here. We got lighting over here. Like this does not look as good as what it does without the light turned on.
Ring light?
Yeah, got the ringer. Got the ringer
Next on
going.
my list.
I have a personal boxing fitness training business one-on-one called Hit to Get Fit. I have my real estate career, which is the number one. I have a professional speaking business.
Right.
And
Okay. Yeah.
so I've traveled across Canada as a professional speaker. I did that for 12 years, and I will be revamping that one again. That'll be Steve Callahan International, because I will be speaking internationally. I have a hockey school. I have a hockey school that operates 2 weeks of the year, and that's called Four Line Hockey. I think that's it. If I'm not mistaken, I think that might be it for now.
It's only like, a full booklet full of things. Crystal, you missed all of that.
Oh, listen, I know. Don't even get me started.
Did your computer die?
Yes. And I'm like, I texted Cole and I was just like, bring me down my charger. And like, what is this? The one time that he didn't have his phone stuck to his face? Like,
he had it, but he
rude.
couldn't text mom back right away. Like, come on.
I'm so sorry.
But that's okay. Yeah, Steve, I forgot about your speaking. So you're kind of molding a few businesses because you're gonna or molding. Well, weldering. Fusing.
Combining.
Fusing. There you go.
Fusing is the word I've been looking for. So you're kind of fusing a few businesses because you were a professional speaker, and from what I remember us discussing, that was like motivational. Am I right?
Motivational, inspirational. So I became a professional. It came from, I was friends with two young pastors, and a pastor was asked to speak at an event. He didn't know what it was. And this was a long time ago, because I'd been a professional for over 12 years. And at one point I was president of the Newfoundland Association of Professional Speakers. So a professional, it was a business. I had spoken at charities and everything. My first professional speaking engagement was a pastor could not return a certain situation. And he said, would you be interested? Sure. Took the call, and I ended up negotiating a contract to be the guest speaker at the ALS Society downtown Toronto. And they flew me in. I did not speak in front of anybody. I had worked on television too. I still work for Rogers Television. So I flew into Toronto. I got paid thousands of dollars to be the guest speaker at the ALS Society in downtown Toronto in front of thousands of people. And it was an amazing event. And from there, I created a company called Pave the High Road at that time. And Pave the High Road.
Oh.
This episode is full of technical difficulties.
When you logged out by accident, I was like, Steve, I guess it's just me and you now. I was like, am I the only one who's not having issues tonight? Oh, he'll be back in a sec. Give it a minute.
He will.
He won't know that he's gone. There you are. All right. So you froze at speaking in front of thousands of people.
Yeah, that was an incredible night. I came back, and then I created a company called Pave the High Road. I ended up going for 12 years. I think it was across Canada, locally, charities, schools, businesses, government situations, all kinds of speaking opportunities. That led to working on television. I've been a hockey analyst for a number of years as well, and hosted Out of the Fog and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not afraid of a camera.
So you've got a real, like, you don't really do very much, hey?
I feel like what you're telling me is that you have some spare time to do a whole lot of things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What can we fill that up with?
Yeah, you need more to do, Steve. So
right?
I guess the next thing I would go to is you've got to be good with time management.
Yeah. Can you teach me?
Like, can we talk about this?
Yeah, we can, because you can't manage time.
Okay.
It just can't. Like, that's something I have struggled with.
Mhm.
And in the sense of that, but when I realized that you can't manage time, you can't. We all have the same amount of time. We all have the same amount of hours. A lot of people have asked me, how have you made a big change in your life? And when I look back, whether it's health, diet, and you can certainly attest to this, whether it's health or diet, the biggest change I made, I got up an hour earlier.
Always.
That's it.
Yeah.
I got up an hour earlier. Now, I don't go out very far. I do go to bed earlier,
Mm-hmm.
but I got up an hour earlier, just an hour. And
Yeah,
it
but I
gave me
find,
time for myself.
yeah, like you're more productive. I don't know about you. I'm
You
more
are.
productive at that hour in the morning.
First
Right?
thing when you get
Yeah.
up is when you're the most productive. Like even in sales, they say that your most, like your best selling hours are between like 9 and 11.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's just because like not only is that when you're the most on your game, but that's anybody you're going to be talking to. That's when they're thinking business too. Like as the day goes on, you're thinking about supper, you got to pick up the kids, you want to go home, you're going to clean the house, you're going to sit on the couch or go to the gym or do whatever. First thing in the morning is when you're in go mode, right?
Getting up at 6:37, those kind of hours, just that 1 hour, whatever that might be for you. But I got up an hour earlier, changed my whole life. Changed my whole life, gave me the opportunity to create more businesses, gave me create more MSIs, multiple sources of income. I was able to pursue different things. Most of my business in real estate was done by 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now, I still did other things. I still
Yeah.
showed homes. I still had appointments. But the important stuff was done by 11. So then I got, now I do one-on-one trainings. I'll do them at 12. At lunchtime, I'll do them between 6 and 8 in the nighttime. I can still coach sports. I can still do other things. I can still build on them 1 hour earlier. It was not life-changing. That's why when people say, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't have time, I say, you're full of shit.
Bullshit. Yeah.
Shit. I'll look at you and I say,
It's not, I don't have time. It's not a priority. And that's fine too. Like
that's okay. It's all okay.
Call it what it is.
Everybody's life is individual. And like, listen, if it's not a priority, but you wish it was, that's still fine. But until you realize that it's not a priority, that's the reason that you're not getting it done. You're never going to get it done. Right.
Absolutely.
But like, I would always recommend, because I've struggled with, like, I've always been an early bird. But then in my adult life, you start sleeping in a bit, you have different jobs, you don't have to be to work at a certain hour. All of a sudden, your lifestyle changes. And then, of course, when you have the baby, then it's you're up all fucking night anyways. You're sleeping whenever you can. So my big struggle has been to get back up to that, that 5 a.m., 4 a.m. times that I used to always do. But one thing that I've found helpful and that I've read about is that, and if somebody here is listening and you want to give it a try, you want to start getting it up earlier and you're like, I can't fucking get up at 6 or 5 or whatever, try 15 minutes earlier.
That's it.
Yeah.
And do 15 minutes earlier for like 2 weeks. And then another 15 or another 5 minutes earlier, like above that. And just start with small numbers and then go earlier and earlier, because it does get easier to do. And then you start to reschedule your rest of your day. You start to go to bed a little bit earlier. But I find my biggest struggle, and what I'm figuring out now, because it's all about learning, my biggest struggle seems to be not just with getting up in the morning, but with organization. Yeah. You cannot be productive and have 1,000 jobs and have, really successful businesses or whatever, or even just like to feel a certain amount of peace if you're not organized. Like if you're trying to figure out, and this is what I'm coming to terms with, if you're trying to figure out what you're going to eat for supper that night, and that hasn't already been planned at least a day in advance with your fucking chicken breast defrosting or whatever, your day is going to be thrown off, because you know how much work it is to figure out what you're going to have for supper, shop for what you need, cook the meal, have it ready. That's a day.
And generally what that'll lead to is ordering out, picking up the junk food, making the bad decisions, and then that'll lead to the bad health decisions, and it just stems on and on and on from there. The 1 hour, the 15 minutes, the half hour is incredibly important, because it's I think it's that's your time. That's time for you. It's time for you to be able to do those things that you do that lead to the better decisions, that lead to the better outcomes. It doesn't become a running habit, and you don't become, aligned with somebody else's plans, because guess what they got planned for you? Nothing.
Yeah.
And so when you're going down those roads, it doesn't become your time. You want to be able to run the day and not have the day run you. So
100%. And same thing comes with like, because the way I look at organization, like meals is one example, but also like if you want to wake up in the morning and work out, fucking
yeah,
wash your gym clothes for one,
yeah.
have them laid out at the like so here's what I've been doing. Okay. I can't put my phone and my alarm across the room because it's a shared wall with my daughter and she wakes up. So she doesn't wake up all night long, but around like 4, 5, and 6, she's starting to, I guess, stir. She's a little bit lighter then. So if I put my phone next to her wall, she's up. So I have to keep that next to the bed because they always say keep your alarm away from you. But what I've been doing is putting a big bottle of water in an insulated bottle so that it's like still half cold across the room. So I get up, I hit snooze, but then I go over and I just chug like a drink of water and refresh me.
Nice.
But like, put your sneakers, pick out what gym clothes you're going to wear, put it all at the bottom of the bed, wake up and just put it on before you even think about it. Right.
Mine
Make
are
your
already
bed.
in the bathroom, ready to go.
I did mine today. Right. But like, even just to like organize your closet, like so that you're not spending 20 minutes looking for socks because you didn't fold up your socks and put them away. And are they in the end of this pile of clothes that I put, on the treadmill or whatever? So I definitely think that organization has something to do with it. And that is something that I'm coming to my own terms with. And especially being, Crystal knows, I've been in the middle of living
renovations
in a massive renovation for the last 3 years. So during pregnancy, during the newborn stage, like fucking all of it, I've been in the middle of a massive renovation. So organization is not something that I'm familiar with anymore. It has been years since I even felt close to it. So that is something that I'm figuring out, that I'm like, okay, here's the reason you're not eating well. Here's the reason you're not getting up on time. It's not all these excuses that I'm making. It's this organized chaos. So it's
I live in a constant state of organized chaos. That's
So
pretty much just my whole life.
Isn't that what life is these days?
Well, I mean, in my defense, I sit down and I say, like, as organized as I would like to be, and as organized as I know it would make my life better, I also happen to share this house with 4 other people who don't give 2 fucks about my organization. So,
and that's hard,
what I mean?
when you've got the little tornadoes going around fucking it all up.
Like, and they're not even little; they're big tornadoes.
Well, they're little. They're littler. They're younger. And and one older.
My 2 boys are older and moved on, so it's a different time for me as well, and I acknowledge that, and I know things would be a little bit more difficult, and I think that once we open up the door for excuses, though, it just becomes a little easier. That's all.
Always.
And because I've had some good friends that have sat across me and said, hey, I'm a single dad, which is bullshit. And they've made the excuses about this and about that, and I get all of it, but once we open it up and we accept them, then it's just going to lead us down the path that we had to. There's always an opportunity. There's always some room.
It's a story that you tell yourself. When it comes to an excuse, it's you telling yourself a story to make you feel better because you're saying one thing and doing another.
Yeah.
And it's because the thing that you're saying, and maybe it goes back to, the way that you were with your career before. It was, I want this corner office and I want this and I want that. But that's not what you truly wanted. That's what you were saying that you wanted based on what, society said you needed to do, or maybe you had wanted it at some point, but changed your mind along the way, but didn't want to admit that, because that seems like failure or defeat, or like, I didn't make it, so I changed my mind. And it's not the case. It's, we change and we adapt and we evolve. So it's like, if you're making these excuses, like, it's just easier sometimes than saying, I don't really want to do that thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to say that you're not going to take that next step, because the thing is that I get, like, that's a natural progression for your career as a real estate agent, is to like, well, now I'm going to go into a brokerage. Like, this is just the next step kind of thing. It's kind of like, you hear a lot of people say too about, long-term relationships. It's just like, well, we got married because that was the next thing to do, but not necessarily. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you have to realize that it just isn't the right fit, but we don't always want to tell ourselves those things. You know what I mean? So, and that's just the same kind of thing. You probably thought to yourself along the way, well, maybe this isn't what I really want, but we're often scared to admit those kinds of things to ourselves, I think.
People helped me with the decisions, and they weren't ones
Yeah.
that I wanted at the time. And when they made them for me, that was, looking back, some of the best decisions that ever happened in my life.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think we can time this. I feel like it's like a 15-second thing. Seems to be like down to a science now. Yeah, like if we count it down, like he's coming back in like 5, 4,
3,
2.
2.
Oh, almost.
So close.
We were counting down to when you were going to come back. We pretty well have it timed now.
Yeah, you got it down pat. If if those decisions weren't made for me at the time, if I didn't make them, if I didn't choose to go in a different direction, then I probably would have still been living somebody else's life. I probably still would have been living somebody else's dream. And the fact that they happened and I embraced them, then they've opened up avenues for me in different places now. So
yeah,
sure.
It's so cool. I always go back to this book that I read that I'm after saying this to Crystal a fucking like dozen times or more. Because I've read it in more than one book now. So we read a lot of like self-help and how to better yourself and all this stuff.
Personal development.
It's personal development. And we're constantly sharing each other like book suggestions and did you read this and what are you reading now and whatever. But there's been a couple of books now that I've read that say the first one that hit me was right after I had the baby. And I was like reading in between naps or something. I don't know, whatever, whenever I could. And it was, I can't quote it verbatim, but it was basically along the lines of, if you won the lottery tomorrow, so if you won like $30 million and did we lose Steve again? Oh no, he's there. He's there. Okay. Sorry, Steve. Well, your eyes were down and I thought you were totally frozen.
Listening.
But basically, if you were to win, like say, a lifetime supply of money, if money wasn't an object, you didn't need to work to have a living, what would you do? What would your relationship
be doing the same thing?
What would your job be? Like, what would your life look like if you didn't need to do these certain things to pay your bills? And when I read that, I was just like I know it's because it sounds crazy, but like we get up and we get into this lifestyle where like, you're all free as a kid and then you become a teenager and all of a sudden it's like, what school are you going to go to? Make sure you study to get good grades. What career do you want? And at like 18 or 19, people are piling this shit on you. And then it's like, don't forget to go out. You got to get a good job. You got to work hard. You work for the man, whatever. Then you got to get a house. You got to get a husband or a wife and you got to have a baby. And then that's your life. And it's like, you don't actually stop to think along the way about what life you actually want. And when I read that, and it was kind of like, well, if you won the lottery tomorrow, what would you do? I kind of sat back and went like, what would I do? What would I do? And honestly, I started writing because I was like, I hadn't written. I've been graduated high school 15 years. I have not written in probably 16 or more. Like, I don't think I wrote the last year unless it was a project or something, but I used to write a lot of poetry. Actually, I was very deep. I was one of those brooding teens with a lot of fucking emotions. Let me tell you, if I could find some of those poems, you would run because they were, teenage angst. Right. But yeah, so I used to write, but then I also really liked writing like stories and just thoughts and content. And it was after that. So that was 2 years ago. And I just kind of started thinking outside the box again, because I also think that I would still sell houses. If I, in all honesty, if I won the lottery, I think I would still be a real estate agent. But at the same time, it was like, there are other avenues here that I'm being drawn to that I have been ignoring my entire life, because you have to go down the path of like, well, this is a good job and this is going to get you a house and this pays the bills and whatever. And like, how many successful, like rich writers do you know? Like, yeah, you can name like the fucking bestsellers, but how many are there, So stuff like this. So I kind of sat back and started thinking about a lot of stuff. And like, I'm thrilled that I read that, because that led to like me writing it, me feeling more like myself, opening my eyes up to what really matters in life. And this podcast really, like,
I would totally do this forever.
Yeah. Fuck, man. If somebody wants to give us $1 million, we will continue doing this.
We will gladly accept.
edit our stuff for us and do all the
And I
hard
have
stuff.
no doubt that it's going to happen. I've said that already. I think that's where I'm to. I think that's where I'm to in life, is that I feel like I've won the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
good.
really feel like now, and I'm glad that you brought that analogy up, because I feel like I've got the money. I feel like I've got whatever the lottery gives you.
Mm-hmm.
And now I am doing what I want to do, whatever that is. And if it's being that vehicle, that's what I'm doing. If it's doing those things that I felt were difficult to do years ago, are fairly simple now, but I won the lottery. I won the lottery because I am on life too. And I'm pushing and I'm doing these things. I know that they're going to align, or as you said, they're going to fuse together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of stuff that I'm doing. Like I know I would still be doing today exactly what I'm doing right now. And if I had that million, I would still be talking to you. I would still be collectively working together, and generating this message that we're doing, and this opportunity, and opening up this community, whatever that might be. I would still be doing this today. I believe I won the lottery. I believe I've got that second life, and that's where I'm kind of guided towards now.
I
Love it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's ultimately what it is. Like, if you, because we get put on the path to do the things that's going to make us the money or whatever, or do whatever society says you're supposed to do, as opposed to just following. Because I really, really, truly believe that every single person is put on this earth with some kind of a purpose.
Absolutely.
You know? Like
some people find it.
Yeah, and a lot
Others
of people
don't.
don't. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't, right? So I feel like we're all put here for some reason, even if you're put here for somebody else.
Yeah.
It's like there's still a reason, right? Oh, look, yeah, I knew we lost you again, but we just kept going that time. We're like,
Yep.
let's keep going. But basically, I was just saying that, like, I really do believe that everybody was put here for some, like some kind of a calling.
Mm.
You know, like you have some kind of a calling, because there is a fire that burns inside people for different things. Like, I like to write. I love fucking public speaking, like being in front of people. Same thing, Steve. Like, I'm very comfortable. Yeah, like and I said to Drew one day, I was like, how can I make money off of my personality? And he's just kind of
right.
Went, what? I'm like, I just want to get paid
to be me.
I'm like, there's got to be a way to get paid for existing, right? But there's, and then there's other people who have a passion for, there's all these like, look at Steph Beck. We interviewed her a little while ago, and she's just got this passion for wellness and fitness, and like it's her calling, and no matter what, like that's going to be something that she was doing, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like there's something there for everybody. And if we all stopped doing what we're told and started doing, what we
started listening to our inner child, basically. Like, let's be honest, right? When I was a kid, I can still remember, like, kindergarten, they came into our room, or into our classroom, and took a video, and they were just like, what does everybody want to be when they grow up? And I could still remember, like, sitting down and saying I wanted to be a singer. P.S. I suck at singing, but I kind of sit there and I'm like, I wish I still had that, confidence in myself that I thought I was just going to do that.
Hey, after like 4 drinks, you do.
I do still sing. I'm not saying I don't sing. I'm
not
just
saying I had videos of you or anything.
Oh, Jesus. I'm just saying it might not be good, but it happens.
That confidence, that belief that I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think that that's what we're all kind of missing as we get older, is that confidence and that belief in yourself that you could literally just be whatever. Like, I can still remember Harper at some point saying that she wanted to be a unicorn when she grew up. Like, cool, do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to happen, but do it.
Well, there's an influencer on Instagram. She's local.
Yes.
I'm going to say her name wrong.
Jessica Petton.
Yes, Petton. Thank you. So Jessica Petton, and when you said unicorn, I thought of her. I'm like, you know what? She went out and she became a unicorn, because the girl does like this most magical, like she's a makeup artist.
Amazing. Well, she's just an influencer.
Yeah, she's like a social media influencer.
But
wow.
I mean? Yeah, like that's her job, and she gets paid by different people to like show off her makeup, show off this fashion stuff.
She's so talented.
Sounds like an awesome job.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and you said unicorn, that was what I thought of, because I think maybe she's done some of those pictures, but she's very colorful, and she's got like the glitter, and like you see this girl and you remember her, and like she's following. And if you had to tell her 10 years ago, oh yeah, well, you're going to grow up and you're going to get paid for wearing makeup that most people would say like, that's, what are you doing? That's crazy. You can't go out looking like that or whatever. And taking these pictures with this like this fashion forward clothing, and you're going to put it on the internet and people are going to pay you to sell their products. Like what?
Yeah.
Right. But now it's so capable.
It's like a fear thing too, right?
Crystal, move in a little bit. Sorry.
I said
Your
it's
microphone's gone.
It's like a fear thing. Can you hear me?
No.
Hello. Hello.
Like, yes, but like very little.
I don't know what's going on there.
Guys, this is a really good night for technology.
That's tough, right? What the hell? Is that better?
It's the same. We can hear you. Keep going.
I don't know. Anyway, point of story is that we all end up basically, because everybody keeps saying stuff to us about, you know, like, oh, well, you can't really do that, or that's not really a thing, or whatever. We just kind of have this fear instilled in us. So then we don't take the leap when we should, kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, for me, I sit down and I say what Steve is saying here, and what we're always kind of like talking about is like, just jump, just do it. You know, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You fall flat on your face. Who gives a shit? You just get up and do something else.
Yeah. I think people have a big fear of the perception of other people, which is that's kind of embedded in us too.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
It is. Sooner or later, whether it's on our time or somebody else's time, we get to a point where we just don't give a shit anymore.
I think so too.
The quicker we can get to that point, where you just don't care. And that's, you know, that was one of the biggest things I found out, that when I was given the second life, that the biggest thing I found out was that I don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care about the little shit things. Doesn't mean that I didn't care about the big things. Doesn't mean that I didn't care about my family. Doesn't mean you know, like now I will never miss a Sunday supper at mom and dad's. Like there's just little things I will not miss, or they will never take precedent over. But there's other things that I just don't care about anymore. Like now I just don't care about traffic. Now I don't care about all the other shit things. So I came out of that thinking, okay, let's move all that aside and let's see what's there that's important. And when the quicker we get to that point where we don't give a shit about the other stuff, that's when we really start living. When we figure out that life is happening for us, not to us, that's it right there.
Game changer.
Game changer.
Yeah. All right. So we have taken up a lot of your time. This has been some great conversation. But Steve, last question before I go is, you what?
I have one too, so it's not the last question.
Okay.
It's the second last.
All right. Second last question before we go. And this is a question that we do ask pretty well to everybody so far, I believe. If you could go back today, he froze up again, didn't he?
No,
if you could go back today, as you are, everything that you've been through with your knowledge and your life experience, and talk to your 16-year-old self, what would you say?
Me? Oh my God. Wow.
It's a good question, right?
I'm usually the one that's good at asking the questions.
We did an episode about this because this is
awesome.
It's such a good question.
Awesome.
Feel free to ask it.
Wow. 16.
But with your knowledge.
Oh my gosh. There's not a lot I would have changed, that's for sure. I loved our teenage years. I look back at our teenage years and they were so innocent. And I mean that, like our graduating years of 87 and 88 and 89. And I say that, and I'm not sure where everybody was to in those years, but they were just in it. Like they were so good, innocent times. And I think as much as I would like to say that I could take all this wisdom and bring it to that 16-year-old, I'm glad looking back that I didn't have that wisdom, because we just had some great innocent times. They felt like the 50s because we went to the high school dances. We walked home afterwards. We didn't go there intoxicated. We actually looked out for the last dance that night with somebody special. And, unfortunately, it was Stairway to Heaven, and that went on for 15 minutes, but they were just good times. They were innocent times for us and our little generation at that time in that late 80s. And we weren't really inundated with everything that was going on right now. We held hands. Our parents picked us up and dropped us off. And I keep looking at like the Karate Kid movie, the Date movie, we went to the games arcade, like these little things now. I'm as much as I would love to have all this wisdom, I'm glad that at 16 I didn't, and because I really enjoyed the moments. I wasn't over analyzing the moments.
Mhm.
I was living the moments in those, and they stick with me today. You know, when I hear the song "The Time of My Life" in Dirty Dancing, like I remember the dance I was at that time. Like it was just those kind of. So, yeah, as much as I would have loved to have that wisdom, I'm glad I didn't.
Oh, I love that. All
Very
right, Crystal, what's the final question?
Oh, my question to you is the same question you asked to us once upon a time. What's your favorite movie?
Oh my
Ooh.
gosh. This is kind of easy. I actually love it. It's not really, it's an incredible movie, but definitely for love of the game. Um, and it's a Kevin Costner movie,
Yeah.
and it's a baseball player,
Mhm.
and he's at the end of his career, and he looks back over the course of a baseball game that he's pitching over his life, and the mistakes and all the moments and all that, and that more resonates with me today than it ever does. But it's called For Love of the Game, and obviously it's about life. But it's definitely my favorite. I mean, I could, there's not a movie that can't come on TV right now. Like last night, Con Air was on. I mean, how do you turn Con Air off? Or of course, any of the Star Wars movies or anything like that. Anything that comes on A&E or Armageddon, all these ones. I mean, they're on, they're on, they're on. They don't turn off. But uh, I think a pretty deep movie for me is For Love of the Game.
Good one.
I
Like
have to
that
watch
movie.
that one. You've seen
It's a
it?
good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
I've got so my thing. I'm a chick flick romantic comedy
And I'm
girl.
not.
I watch like the horror movies and stuff too, but I love a good comedy. So like a drama and everything and a suspense thriller. I still like them all, but I'll always just zero right back to
I do love a
the
comedy.
comedies and the rom-coms and all this. So like the amount of times that I've watched like super bad. I really could have been watching these other serious, like in-depth movies. You know what I mean? Like, should I be able to quote 40-Year-Old Virgin like I can? Like, probably not, but yeah. So I've missed a lot of movies. The list of classics that I haven't even seen is just you'd be pretty routed, actually. Yeah. So anyway, Steve, this has been wonderful. I love talking to you tonight. It was fantastic.
Thanks so
You
much
took
for
us way
joining
past our
us.
bedtime.
It's listen, way past my bedtime. Don't forget, in order to get up early, I gotta,
You got to go to bed early.
Us
Yeah.
but
too.
truly, I'm truly blessed to spend the time with you, kind of getting just to know you guys so much better. I love the connection. I am a fan. I'm a big fan. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of what you're both doing. I'm so proud of the opportunities that you're giving other people, and I love it. I'm so thankful, so blessed to be with you tonight.
Well, thank you so much. We loved having you on. It definitely won't be the last time because I feel like all of our guests that we get on, I'm like, we're just scratching the surface. Like there's so much more to go. We'll definitely have you on again. And until then, we are going to say peace out and you're going to hear a little bit of our recap. But until then, it will be every Friday. New episodes. Be sure to listen, like, share, subscribe, follow. We're on Instagram. We haven't done a whole lot on TikTok.
Wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Mhm. Until then, bye.
Bye.